Hey there, everybody who may be watching this. I was going through the book of Mark with my children, and I read them a little devotion every day. And I was coming through to Mark chapter 4, just near the end of it. And there's some neat things that I saw in here that the Lord was revealing to me as I was reading it to them. And just thought I would share some of these things. So, Mark 4, and starting at verses 36. And leaving the crowds, they took him along in the boat as he was, and the other small boats were also with him. And a great windstorm occurred, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filled. And he was on the stern, sleeping on the headrest. And they awakened him and said to him, Teacher, does it not matter to you that we are perishing? I'll stop right there for now and mention a few things. So, as I've been going through the book of Mark, I've seen that Jesus has been very, very busy. He's been, his ministry started off, and it seems like as soon as this time started, it was just busy, busy, busy. And Jesus would so many times get back really late to wherever he was staying. And then he would go out in silence and he would pray. And then he would have a busy day again. And he would go and he would speak to the people, would heal the people. He would speak the news of the kingdom and repentance and just the things that he came to do. And so we find here in this part of the story where he had spoken to all kinds of people, and it says that he always spoke to them in parables, but then he explained it to his disciples. And so we see here in Mark 4, at the end of it, they're going to go across the lake to another place, probably to speak the word of the Lord there. And so they go in the boat, and it says that a great windstorm occurred, and it says the boat was filled already. So as we look and as we see, Jesus is asleep in the boat, and I think to myself, I'm like, well, as I've been reading the things that Jesus has been doing, I mean, it's almost exhausting just reading of all the things that he's been doing. And even to think that he would go throughout the night and pray many times throughout the night. And I think Jesus was just, well, we have to remember too, Jesus is completely God and completely man. But he put aside some of those godly things, whereas now he gets tired. He's in a human body, and it's hard to imagine that the creator of the universe would limit himself to become tired. And we see that here. Jesus is struggling with tiredness and falls asleep in the back of the boat. And he has his head down, it says, on some kind of headrest. I don't know if it was a pillow or what it was, but he falls asleep, and there's this wicked windstorm that comes up. And as we look into this story, when this windstorm comes up, we see that it says the boat was being filled with water. And Jesus is sleeping through all of it. And I think it's because he is so exhausted. I think it's a time where he's not teaching, he's not healing, he's not preaching. His disciples are doing what they are good at. I mean, many of his disciples were fishermen. And, Jesus, he grew up as a carpenter's son. And I don't know how much he was down by the sea, but I think a lot of people made their livelihood from the sea and from the fish and from those things. So now he sleeps because his disciples are doing what they're good at. And they're good at, navigating the sea, they've seen storms, many storms, and they've seen many of these situations that they were in, except this time was a little different. Jesus is asleep in the back of the boat. And I can see the disciples struggling hard with this storm. Because, I think of us sometimes, like we get lost in a car or something and we can be like, well, I don't want to ask for directions. And, our pride sometimes keeps us from from even asking somebody for advice or for direction or anything. We're sinful beings and we have a lot of pride. And sometimes to make ourselves vulnerable and say, hey, I actually don't know what I'm doing here, or whatever it may be, I need help. It's sometimes difficult for us to ask for help. But listen, the disciples, the experienced fishermen, the ones who knew their way with the boats, many of them did, they are coming to a place where they're coming to an end of themselves. And they had seen Jesus do amazing, miraculous things. I mean, read the book of Mark. Just in this book, how many things Jesus has already done. And their faith has been slowly built. That this man, and one of the things that it keeps saying is that this man, Jesus, he spoke with authority, unlike the people, unlike the Pharisees. So Jesus had an authority, because when he spoke with this authority, his speaking was backed up by his actions. And when he said something, I mean, think way back to the creation. In the creation, there were words spoken and things happened. I mean, God said, let there be, and there was, and it was good. And again and again and again, God speaks and amazing, awesome things happen. And here we see the disciples, they come to a point where they see Jesus sleeping in the back, and they probably did not want to wake him for quite some time because they saw how tired he was and exhausted. They just want to let him sleep. But they come to a point where they are desperate, and they run over to him and they say this. They say, teacher, verse 38, does it not matter to you that we are perishing? And you can see Jesus waking up and being kind of like, what's going on? Does it not matter to you that we are perishing? They go to him, these experienced sailors, and they're the ones who, like, what is Jesus going to do in this? Obviously, they had faith that he was able to do more than them. And we got to realize there's a very important lesson we got to take here, that when we realize that we've come to the end of ourselves, that we need to run to Jesus. Because Jesus, he is always there willing to help us. The thing is, will we come to him and ask for him for his help? He says to them, does it not matter to you that we are perishing and being awakened? Listen, this is so amazing. He rebuked the wind and said to the sea, silence, be muzzled. Jesus speaks to the storm. And looking and reading, we've read these stories many times, and it would seem odd. Jesus speaking to a storm. I mean, think of it. Be a disciple. When was the last time that one of them was in a storm and they yelled out at the storm and they say, be muzzled, and you rebuked it and he said, silence. It just seems ridiculous. It seems just odd and strange, I would think, like for being the disciples, that Jesus stands up and he speaks to this storm. And the thing is, he speaks to this storm in the same authority that he's spoken to the blind man, that he would receive his sight, and to the lame man to get up and walk. And to whatever else Jesus has done, that same authority was in his voice. And lo and behold, this is what happens. And the wind ceased. It was instant. Jesus speaks, and instantly there is a calm. Verse 40, and he said to them, why are you so fearful? How do you not have faith? We got to realize Jesus is God. And Jesus, at the beginning, God said, let there be, and there was, and it was good. And this same God that, when Elisha walks across the Jordan, he strikes the Jordan and it separates. And the same one where Moses, he holds his staff over the Red Sea and it separates for them. And God calls out down hail on the enemies of Israel many times. And for Jesus, he is God. That's his nature. For them, this question is very legitimate. Do you not know why are you so fearful? Why are you so fearful, he says? Do you not have faith? Faith in what? Faith in him? For him, he is God. And his disciples have not yet realized who Jesus is. And I tell you, we do not realize who Jesus is many times. We do not realize that when Jesus said to his disciples when he was leaving, lo and behold, I am with you even to the end of the age, that he is with you even to the end of the age. Listen, he is just there as real as he was sleeping in the boat, as he is right now with you, going through any and every situation that you may be facing. And he says to you, why are you so fearful? And he says, how do you not have faith? You may be going through something very difficult right now. And Jesus is there beside you. And he says to you, I am here. Because he is who he says he is. He has the authority, all authority. And so when we think of God, he is so much more than we can ever imagine. And so much more than we ever will realize. And his disciples have come to a point in their lives where, yes, they recognize their inability to do anything about the situation. They've recognized that there was some kind of authority, but what they did not realize yet was who Jesus really was. And we see this by the next words. Verse 41, and they feared a great fear and said to one another, who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? It would seem ridiculous just talk to the wind and the waves and the sea. And here yet Jesus was speaking to the elements and they obeyed instantly. It says there was a great calm in verse 39. And Jesus can speak that great calm into your soul, into your heart. And his disciples, now, they were so afraid and frightened of this storm. A great fear came on them. And it was a recognition and a realization that whoever they were with here in the boat was far more than just a man. I think this was a turning point. Maybe not to a point where they really realized who he was, but they realized way more who he was. They said, who then is this? That the elements, that the wind and the sea listen to his voice. Jesus is with us. His Holy Spirit is within us. And so whenever we walk this walk of this difficult life, he is walking there beside us. You know, even though he may have been asleep on this boat, he was still with them. Was anything going to happen to him? Was the wind and the waves that he created going to hurt him and harm him? In this instance, no. The disciples did not know who was with them. You know, we fear the things of this world. We fear the things around us because we do not realize who is with us. When we realize who really is with us, the creator of all things, God himself, we will be like the disciples and we'll look at each other and say, who then is this? And we will have a great fear, not of the circumstances around us, but who he is. An awful fear because of his greatness. So be blessed. I was blessed reading this and reminded again that, listen, I'm not alone. I'm never alone. You're not alone. You're never alone. He who speaks to the elements, as ridiculous as that may sound to our natural human mind, he's speaking to you and saying, why are you so fearful? I'm here with you. Be blessed and encouraged. And I'll see you next time.